All right, we are live, sir.
All right. Blind Buys, the 10,000th podcast that we have come together to create. This one will stick because we've eliminated some of the problems that existed in the other ones.
Nobody knows. This is not a way to start this. Yeah, our old producer was a fucking sack of shit, liar, and my
But
brother.
and we love him dearly, and we
Yeah,
hope he watches and listens.
for all of his flaws. Anyways,
But
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the first edition of Blind Buys, where we're going to talk about physical movie releases and probably streaming movies as well, and everything in between, but mostly physical stuff
a
and
lot
boutique
of uh,
labels.
a lot of boutiques. We're going to talk purchases, the mental illnesses that come with this stupid hobby that we still participate in. Um, the idea that even if you're broke, you're sitting there on Blu-ray.com looking at the things you're about to pre-order because we have a mental illness, a disability, and an inability
Exactly.
to operate. It's an addiction,
Yeah,
and
or you're making a cart on Hamilton with 300 movies in it.
yeah, but that's my secret. I don't want that getting out because I have a cart full of stuff right now that I don't want people to come in and take.
I have a $3,000 Kino cart that I just wait for sales and then have to whittle down. It's
Exactly.
not good for anybody. This hobby's not good. But as we dive deeper and more boutique labels start putting out 4Ks, we have to start this program talking about well, I guess this isn't the latest from Blue Underground, but it's one of the latest. And that's Uncle Sam on 4K UHD disc.
As you can see, we both have could not miss out on the lenticular cover.
Yeah, which is it? Yeah, there it goes. Yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
I'll say that cover. I have seen this movie before, so I knew what I was getting into. That cover is maybe the best part about it.
I didn't think it was that bad. It was a blind buy for me, honestly. I had never really seen it. Um, my question is, did you do the reverse slip that comes with it, which can be seen here? And if
Yeah,
you are
always,
in listening strictly
always.
in the audio medium, go fuck yourself. Um,
Yeah, you gotta. If you have the same art on the slip and the case, to me that's mental illness. Why wouldn't you flip it? Even if it sucks, it's still hiding behind there. It's still different. That's
yeah,
how.
what makes
Every
it
time I open a
difficult is when
movie,
you have three different options or something like that. But so Uncle Sam, this was something I watched 4th of July weekend for the first time. I didn't watch it with Joe Bob because I wanted to watch the 4K disc. Um, I thought I had issues, and this is something that you had taught me something about after I talked to you. So we have the Panasonic 4K player. We both have the exact same one. We try to, when we talk about movies, experiencing them in the exact same way, so that there isn't any discrepancies in the conversation or in quality of viewing. And I had not watched any Blue Undergrounds since I purchased that player. I used to watch them on the Xbox One X, and I had what you described to me as a common flickering problem with transitions during the film.
yeah, like the
Um,
brightness will go between like normal brightness and it'll get like darker for a second. And I first noticed that with Zombie, and I didn't have that on my old when I was playing on my Xbox either. But it's like it's these discs on this player. It seems like.
which is something important for everybody to understand because I was unaware of that. So the whole time I'm watching it, I'm first of all wondering what the hell's wrong with my top of the line 4K player that I spent hundreds upon hundreds of dollars on. And number two, I'm curious what's going on with my top of the line LG OLED TV. And then number three, I'm wondering if this was a disc problem. About 30 minutes in, it went away. So it eventually stuck in the proper frame rate and everything. But the first 30 minutes, it affected my viewing experience pretty greatly because I became concerned about all of those other things. Um, so if you're picking this up, that is something important to realize. You had told me that the way to avoid that is to switch from Dolby to HDR.
Yeah, this is purely a Dolby Vision issue with these discs on this player. HDR10, no problems, looks fine. There is like another way if you go into the settings. Somebody on the Blu-ray forum said to turn down, what was it? There was some option to turn down and it might fix it. It didn't fix it for me. It's just like Dolby Vision will do this on this player. Not on every Blue Underground disc. I know the new one coming out. What was that movie called? Let me see if I
It's
have the
like
old
God told
DVD.
me to do it.
Yeah, God told me. Yeah, that one has the same issue. So it's just however they author their discs or something. I'm not knowledgeable about why it's happening, but I just know if you have the Panasonic to watch out for that.
So that's something that is uh, very fixable, especially if you catch it at the beginning. Just always check that stuff. The film itself, it I was expecting something different. I thought it was going to be like in a way more violent, with some more gore. That's not to say that I didn't enjoy it, but this kind of fell into that category of movies to me, like an Ice Cream Man, or even a People Under the Stairs, where it feels more like a kid movie that is inappropriate than it does like a horror movie for an adult. That's where I landed on it overall, but that doesn't necessarily make it a bad movie either. I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't the gore fest that I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of cutaways from the gore at spots where you're like, oh, what we see him like slash, and then we see the severed head, but we don't get to see the head get taken off, which is not that's not a big deal, but when it happens over and over again in this movie, it goes down a tier for me. It doesn't
Uh,
reach like higher levels of all-time rewatchable slashers.
And this comes down to like even right on right on the case. They're advertising, this from the creators of Maniac Cop, which
Yeah.
um, delivers in those regards. So it was kind of a weird editing choice. I don't know if that was because they didn't want to take away from the big explosion at the end of the movie, or if effects all went to that,
That
because they
that
did
might have been
talk
it.
about how expensive that sequence is at the end, and how difficult it was to do it correctly. And there's actually, you can see where a wall that wasn't supposed to fall actually falls down on top of the stuntman while he was burning on fire.
Yeah, that
That
that that finale is good. I'll say there's a lot of good actors in here. Um, Isaac Hayes is awesome in this. Uh, I mean, you have that combination of like Larry Cohn and William Lustig, where you're like, this is gonna be incredible, and then you watch it and it's very, like you said, it's almost like a kids movie. The story's kind of, it's anti-war, it's like anti-military in a way, but it's so heavy-handed. Everything in this movie is like hits you right over the head. There's no subtlety. It's like they wrote the script on a napkin. But I don't know, it's still enjoyable. I've always
yeah,
liked it.
yeah, it's definitely something that's going to come off the shelf every summer for me. And the one thing that I wanted to bring up was how good is Isaac Hayes as an actor. Like, I slept on Isaac Hayes. I never really thought about it. Of course, like he's obviously in Escape from New York and everything, but even as when I was younger, I didn't appreciate that movie as much as I appreciated it in my most recent viewing, and how badass Isaac Hayes actually was. And it's hard to go back after 30 years of South Park, and like, I mainly know Isaac Hayes as the weird Scientologist who ended up being chef on South Park, and
Yeah.
the R&B singer. Like, to go back and watch these movies now that I'm old enough to appreciate what he's doing, it's actually like he's surprisingly good in this movie as well. uh, Despite the fact that he is kind of advertised as like the star of the movie, like, he's kind of secondary and had to like steal his scenes, in my opinion. in this
Yeah, he
movie, and
definitely.
he does a good job. But everybody referred to him as the star in the special features and whatnot. So he must have cost a good bit of money
I
to
guess he
bring
was
on.
the biggest name here. Well, no, Robert Forster is on here. He's third billing, and he's barely in the fucking movie.
All right. So that's something that I think is something to take away from this is like if you're put off by any of the stuff that we talked about, um, there are some performances that are worth seeing for sure, and definitely go back and start looking at some Isaac Hayes films because despite the fact that he's like some weird Scientologist who was a horny chef on South Park, like he's putting in some like he put in good work. And I'm glad that I can appreciate it now. Like this on top of Escape from New York, I think like solidified that for me. Um,
Do you think Uncle Sam could have been like an episode of Tales from the Crypt? It seems like the plot and the story didn't need to be a full movie. Like it was a
yeah,
little bit stretched out. I
yeah, for
think
sure. That's a good point. I didn't even really consider that.
yeah, like the moral quandary of it and the like the anti-war thing that would have been like a Tales from the Crypt. You're in, and you're out, and you get everything you need out of it. It even has that vibe a little bit, like the way it's shot.
Yeah, for sure. Um, it definitely felt like a cheap HBO TV show from the 80s for the first 30 minutes that I was watching it. And
Yeah,
in that experience of having it flicker and not be like a true 4K viewing experience. Now, I will say, once I got past that, like it popped. Like the reds were really good. The explosion at the end. That's something I'm always looking for, and mainly I'm always impressed by is 4K, especially on this OLED. And my favorite thing to see is flames, fire, that kind of thing. Every 4K that I've watched that featured it, like it just pops and it's beautiful. The one that didn't would be Escape from LA, which is probably the worst transfer I've ever seen of any movie ever, which was disappointing. But yeah, once you got past that issue, it was something to behold. So if you're somebody that likes to revisit stuff strictly because it's 4K and it's new and it's like seeing it for the first time, in my opinion, the closest thing that you'll ever come to seeing it on screen, on film. Really looked good. So like Blue Underground always puts in the work. The first
yeah.
4K that I ever watched was Zombie, and it blew my mind.
And if you got to switch from Dolby Vision to HDR, it still looks great. So don't worry about that. If you have that issue, you can always switch over. I'm not. There's a lot of people who are dyed in the wool Dolby Vision, and every time it's available, I use it. Like it looks incredible on Demons, but you know, if it there's an issue, then just switch over. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
absolutely. HDR10 isn't anything to shake your nose to. Elitists are stupid, and there's too much of that in this community for some reason. I don't understand why, but yeah. So this, on first time ever 4K, and about a week or two after it was released, you got to watch it on Joe Bob too. So it was a pretty big year for the re-release of that film.
And that'll be the definite final note on that movie. I think that's it. That's
Yeah,
its
for
final
sure.
ride.
One thing that I did like was how like the Uncle Sam suit was like taken from a kid, but I wanted to see that kid get like just fucking brutally murdered. Um,
Yeah,
and
it
it
got
wouldn't
cut
even have
away.
it would have been a good lesson for that kid, like to actually see him like
That's the kid that his eyes got gouged out, right?
yeah, yeah. And that was right after he's using these stilts to spy on a girl or woman after the shower. So like I think that more movies should have had the balls that Pet Cemetery 2 had, but that's a whole other conversation, you know. Like,
Oh, there is a movie that has way more balls than any of those, and we'll talk about it someday. Beware Children at Play, and a recent Vinegar Syndrome release, an old Troma. I don't know if they produced it. I think they just put it out, but
it
distributed
ha-
it.
it is cheap on Vinegar Syndrome now. It still comes with a slip, which is important to some people. I have not bought it yet. It's in my list of things to purchase. So as soon as I grab that, that'll definitely be featured on Blind Buys. But if you want to talk about ballsy filmmaking, then that's the true star of this podcast right now.
as you see in the this corner here. Yeah, look at that. I don't even know which way to point on this
Yeah.
fucking camera.
But I also have it playing in the background right now on my giant TV in my bedroom. But this film I bought, this was total blind buy for either of us. I'd never heard of it until I had come across it. It is a partner label from Vinegar Syndrome from Saturn's Core. I discovered it scrolling through Hamilton video, um, Hamilton book video section, and uh, you know, it's called Duck, the Carbine High Massacre. And I feel like the name of that alone kind of will kind of explain what you're getting yourself into. But what we have here is a a post Columbine, the first post Columbine film about school shootings, and um, it is something. I can tell you that right now. So, the slip, it has the stars of the film right there, standing there with the lockers behind them. Um, the back has the story here. If you're reading it, these two guys were
Oh, the
arrested after making this film. Okay, yeah, you
did you flip
also
it?
went. I
Yeah, we
flipped it.
both flipped
Yeah,
it to the original like VHS looking thing. Well, of course.
yeah. Yeah.
That's not a surprise.
But what you do is you run into this situation where that slip is different, and there is the new art right
Yeah, you
there.
gotta pick one.
Um, so on the back, there was an excerpt from Joe Bob, which solidified my decision to get this movie. So even before the most recent sale, I had picked this thing up, and I let you know about it, Jeremy, and you also grabbed it in that sale. And finally, we watched this thing. And when you go into what you assume is an exploitive Columbine film, like, I expected just violence, just gore, just kind of an over the top parody of it, which is not necessarily what you get at first in this movie. I
Yeah.
was taken aback by how in depth they went with character driven story here, and how it almost operates as an after school special about about Columbine and the 20 years of school shooting massacres that have happened ever since. Uh, but man, does this movie like go everywhere. And I'm not saying that it doesn't become complete sleaze and trash and deliver on all fronts, because it absolutely does. But leading up to that, man, it's a story it's a story driven character piece, and I was taken aback by how good that is. And based on the cover, based on the plot, people would never expect it or give it a shot, and that's why we're doing it on this first episode, because people need to see this movie.
Yeah, I'll say up front, it's like shot on video, and the acting is horrible. But if that's not something that's very important to me, especially in a movie like this. So put that behind you immediately. Just just let the script and what they're trying to do take you, because they definitely go deeper. I thought it was going to be more, because there are cartoonish parts in this, and there's a level of humor and satire to it, and I thought that was going to be the whole movie, and it's not. They actually try to develop the bullies and some of these characters, and they give these two kids like a reason for what they're doing, and it's a little bit nihilistic the way they um show high school, but it definitely reminded me of us in high school, and how like the stereotypes and the cartoonish characters were kind of like real people that we knew. especially
Absolutely.
like the druggies and stuff. Like
And
it hit a little bit close to home from the
yeah, so
era.
you got the weird trench coat kids who are like low key hanging out with the goths, and they're all being harassed and made fun of by jocks and shit like that. And every single one of them, they have like the same parents, and but it's not like
See,
it's not like an over the top thing. Like you have to really pay attention to see every character has their parents are the same actors, and they portray each character differently. You know, one character has an alcoholic, abusive father, and that same actor then plays like an almost cartoonishly, overbearingly proud father to another. And you actually pointed that out to me because when I was watching it, I thought like they looked incredibly similar, but I didn't pick up on it until you brought it up.
yeah, I
And
had to
then
ask you because I needed confirmation if I was going nuts, or they just like look so similar. I'm like, no, it's the same fucking dad with
and that
everybody.
is such a great character story piece to me that really looks into like the actual cause of this kind of behavior, like parents not paying attention, parents having their own problems, parents just not being there for their kids. And it doesn't matter if you're the abusive father or you're on the other end of the spectrum. It's like if you were a better parent, maybe this might not have happened. Maybe your kid might not be reading Mein Kampf in the hallway and saying that black people have brains that are green. Like
Oh
that
man,
is
yeah.
such a good point that you wouldn't expect from this movie, and they deliver it effortlessly. And so the little nuances like that really need to be appreciated and demonstrated. So like watch this movie and pay attention to the little things, because the little things is where the message is at in the exploitive film. Like there is something here to this that isn't just, oh, there was a school shooting, let's make a movie about it, you know. um,
It's like they have something to say, but they're saying it with like the humor and the way with of like a 20-year-old, you know? Like it's not
Absolutely.
pretentious.
And they show how like the media creates it, and the media needs this type of stuff. And the media in this movie, they're like bored by it until, you know, there's fire, like there's fire at a school, you know, like shots have been fired, so now the media then starts keying up. And uh, something that I felt eventually becomes a detriment is uh the principal in the movie, where he's kind of like extremely over the top. Definitely is like trying to bang students, just like a sleazy sex hound kind of character. And that was fine up until a point, but he's still acting like that in front of media cameras. He's still acting like that while the school shootings are like happening, like kids are dying
Well,
in front of him.
he's stepping over dead bodies and he's still being like, "Ooh, that's gross," type of shit.
Yeah. And so like the humor for that character specifically, I thought like probably should have came to an end, uh, because it was a good allegory. Like again, just like the parents, the principal, he's a garbage person, and had he been a better person, then maybe this massacre could have been avoided, so to speak. And so there's just, like I said, nuances upon nuances upon nuances in this movie that
I think they just couldn't
all
help but to keep it cartoonish to a level, especially because you get that first hour and it's all of that, and then you're like, how much time's left in this movie? How far are they gonna go? You get a whole half an hour school shooting scene with a lot of different gore. There's some real good effects. That Christian girl getting shot with the gun in her mouth was amazing. But then you have that principal walk through in the middle of this serious shooting, and like nobody's kind of taking it seriously, but they kind of are. I
yeah,
don't think I would have changed anything about that. I like that because it gives it that exploitation feel to it of like, hey, we're having fun with this, even though we're talking about like recent events when this movie was made. Like we're still gonna fucking take the piss out of it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right there. It's the principal thing just got to me, just because he like does it on camera in front of media, which
Yeah, that was
I
stupid. You're right.
I felt like the way that they were creating this character, he would have immediately changed when somebody from the outside was paying attention. That's just kind of the way I took it. Maybe I took this character too literally, or maybe I put too much thought into what they were trying to do. Perhaps I created the depth of this character in my own head, but to me, I would have been slightly a little happier if when there's a news camera in front of him that he stopped acting like that to kind of demonstrate that it was just that much more slimy.
Yeah,
But
he just kind of showed his ass the whole time. He was like
that's
one note in that regard.
that's nitpicking, and I didn't think that this would be a movie where I would have to nitpick. Like, I went into this just expecting complete and total garbage. And if you take 20 minutes and edit some of this out, it's a lifetime original movie. Like
A little bit, yeah. There's one
they
scene during the shooting though that we need to discuss, and that is you referenced the green brains earlier. That's where during that I was like, okay, these guys aren't going all the way serious with this. Yeah, so
yeah, no,
there's a black kid, and they make that joke about him having green brains. They shoot him in the head. His brains are on the table. They're green. I groaned.
it's it's a subtle, it's almost subtle because if you don't like pay attention to the reference, then like it could have came and went, kind of like a blink and you missed it joke here. But that to me, I've had time to think because we talked about how like, okay, so now the serious stuff is gone and now we're just, this is an exploitation movie and we're going to kill a bunch of kids and these are racist white kids in trench coats just doing whatever they want. um, but that almost kind of to me was like, I kind of forgot the point that I was trying to make. um,
What about the green brains? You
yeah,
felt like
so
that was
that
keeping it.
when the green brain end up coming out of the black student's skull, that was, in my opinion, their attempt at saying like, okay, we spent an hour kind of showing you these kids have been bullied and maybe they weren't so bad if somebody would take the time to get to know them. Like that part I felt was like, okay, this is where you turn on these guys and you're not supposed to relate to them because they're racist pieces of shit and this was going to happen regardless, so to speak. And again, maybe I'm thinking too in depth. Maybe I'm creating things in my head for this movie. But like when the green brain thing happened, like it's kind of where like the switch is turned and you're now they're the bad guys.
Yeah, they're never gonna learn any lesson. This is it. They're done. And like when you see the credits too. I don't know if you looked at the credits. All the kids' names, they didn't have actual names in the script. It was like that the
Yeah,
fat jock kid was Spam Kid and stuff.
spam kid. Yeah, because you like to eat
Yeah.
spam.
So I felt like it went that was their intention all along, and they almost accidentally made a really profound movie. I don't think that
And
was the intention.
here's something that was even more profound, right? Because so now you're seeing these people and they're just named Spam Kid or whatever. So like perhaps these two pieces of garbage who end up killing everybody, if they tried a little harder, if everybody tried a little harder, all this could have been avoided. How many nicknames in high school did I have for people similar to Spam Kid? Do you remember Troll Girl?
Yeah,
Or
that
mammoth
was
mammoth girl, like that's also something that we did in high school. So
Muff
that was
Girl.
like buff girl, that was post high school. So like that was like a thing to relate to still, even like regardless of if that was their intention or not. Like it was nice to see that because it made me feel maybe a little more normal and maybe like less of an asshole that I didn't take the time to learn people for who they were and did that exact thing. I probably would have had a spam jock somewhere along the lines. It
Well, I took
could have
I took the credits as almost in character of what the two shooter kids thought of these other people. They didn't see them as people, but as like one little thing about them that they knew. So
exactly. But
yeah,
that's
so
also what the like
it
that was a relatable thing almost.
it turned a mirror, didn't it? That maybe we were assholes, or maybe we are.
Oh, I absolutely was an asshole in high school. People were not
Because I
wrong to
can't,
say that.
I can't. The worst nickname we had was for that bald kid. You remember at the football games? Cancer kid. That
Yeah.
was that was
So,
bad.
yeah. So
But that's a transition that this dude here, the one kid in this, he actually had cancer while they were making this. That's why he's bald. I don't know if you got into the special features too much.
I didn't get into the special features, but I do know that he died. Like so,
Yeah,
this
recently.
this is like a love letter release for that. But
So
uh,
I take that as a kid who had like a real problem, but he still had humor about stuff and was able to make this movie and say give no fucks about it, about what people thought. I like that. I
yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
the guerrilla style of this movie.
yeah. And we talk about Gorilla. We talked about briefly how they got arrested. You know a little more information on that than I do. I think there's a scene in the movie where they're loading up all of their weapons to go inside of the school, and they're actually on a school, parking lot, and you can see school buses behind them and stuff. And after the movie was released, they were then arrested for that, for having weapons on school grounds. I
Yeah, I
don't.
haven't listened to the commentary yet because I wanted us to talk about this movie. Like, you made a lot of good points about how you what you read into it, and then when we listen to the commentary, maybe none of that's there. But
Right, but
I
art
did,
is subjective.
but I did watch the special feature about that, and they knew it was stupid taking guns into that parking lot to the front of the school, and they're like, "We're gonna get in trouble for this, but it needs to be in the movie because, they don't." The scene where they're shooting kids isn't in a school; it's like in a fucking mess hall they rented and put shit up. So they had to get that visual of a school. So they took the risk, and it paid off by having them get arrested when the movie started getting screened. This was so close to Columbine; they just wanted to punish these guys. And
Ridiculously close to Columbine. The movie opens with a thing about that.
yeah,
There's a little text talking about how somebody was going to make this at some point, and it was going to be them, and it was going to be now. Like they got to it before anybody else could get to it, and screw the message up.
well, I'll say them getting arrested for that gave them a lot of publicity, and now, what is it, 20 some years later, that it's got a nice fucking release with a slipcover and shit. So it worked out. Like, it was worth it, I guess.
Also, talent discovery. The chick who, like the Christian chick, ended up being Spider Babe and having a 20-year career in softcore pornography. So
What the hell
uh,
was her name?
total talent scouting there. Uh,
Oh, man,
um,
what,
her
do you remember her
name,
name? Misty Monday? Misty Monday?
yeah,
Is
it's
that what it is?
Misty Mundy. Yep,
Okay, yeah.
yep. She was very. I just thought the world of the Spider Babe movies because you could get them like you could there was like all of those, you know, early 2000s pornos, like you could get them without a lot of the porn in them, and you could just like watch them on television at points. And I remember seeing them on Showtime and thought they were hilarious. Like it was
Yeah.
really funny. It was real funny. Like the Spider Babe movie was well done. Really good parody of Spider Man actually. But yeah, she's in this movie. So
I was
people
watching it thinking, I was like, this chick's hot. What else has she been in? And then I found everything I needed to find out of that. It's
simple
like, oh,
Google
okay.
search.
Yeah, I guess I can just look at her naked from 300 movies here. It's awesome. That's a little treat that you get watching this blindly. You find things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to find a future shot on video star, like a bona fide star that has credits in when I was watching this movie. So that kind of came out of nowhere. But that was just little things like that. There's a lot that this movie offers, and I bet somebody else could sit and watch it and take away something completely different. So far, you're the only person who I know that has seen it. So this is something
Vice versa.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to spread and trying to like get the word out. That's why I wanted to do it for this episode, so that anybody who ever listens to this um, or watches the videos can hopefully seek it out. I'm sure it's on Tubi or something. And I could have found that out before I said that, a simple Google search. But a lot of these movies that Vinegar Syndrome
Yeah.
puts out are on Tubi. Like this is something that you could probably find if you don't want to spend the $20 on the Blu-ray. Um, but it looks good. It's a fantastic transfer for what should be like just a shot on video. Like
Yeah, it
everything about
looks
it.
as good as it could possibly look. So that's going to turn some people off, though. If you like a lot of, there's like a negativity towards shot on video stuff with certain
That
crowds.
is
So
that is true, and that's something that we need to spread the word about too, because that's stupid. Like some really good films come out of that genre, and there's a reason all of the boutiques kind of have like a little um, subgenre for it now. It's cool that it's getting recognition, but
there's a lot
you
of
know
guys who like Tom Savini was in this movie called The Ripper where he played Jack the Ripper coming back through and killing people. It is shot in video and it's really good. So everybody cuts their
that
teeth some way.
shot on video is literally just like that era's version of going digital. It's cheaper than film. It's really like it. Digital just finally caught up and started to look a little nicer, supposedly.
Yeah, I'd rather watch a shot on video movie than like one of these shot on film fucking Walmart $10 garbage fucking horror movies that I have bought way too many of them and disappointed almost every time. So I don't turn my nose up at anything, even that shit. Uh oh, we have lost. We
I
have lost
mean,
video for a second.
we did. I
You're
kept
back.
talking there. I kept. There's no such thing as dead air. I'm a professional.
All right,
Um,
so you had something you really wanted to discuss in the format here, if
all
I
right.
recall.
So blind buys. We're not just going to talk about blind buys. This is a movie podcast. This is something that we're going to get into the nitty gritty about just about everything when it comes to this physical media collecting. And there's something that we need to talk about. There's something that people need to come off of their ivory towers for, and that's this Halloween box set. Okay, I have a long history with this box set since I started recollecting movies a couple of years ago. Um, if you recall, I have a rather amusing story about the first time I managed to get a hold of one of these, both out of print. I got the 10 disc set. Do you remember how a scammer was trying to scam me? And this was when I first started like getting into like Facebook transactions and stuff. So I kind of like I fell for it, but didn't fall for it. There's some guy, he was posting these movies that he was selling, and he had the 10 disc set for $50 or whatever. And I talked to him, and I like we agreed, and I PayPal'd him the money. And then he was clearly trying to scam, and he wasn't going to send movies, and other people were promised this. So he was stupid enough to continue talking to me after he got my money is his problem. Like if you're gonna scam somebody, you gotta tuck and run.
Yeah.
Um, some people are gonna bother you. I'm not gonna bother you. I'm gonna harass you. I'm gonna be the one who goes to jail. And that's the problem is I take things too far. In every instance of my life, I go for the jugular, and that's because I came from my father who was worse than me. So um this guy, tries to scam me. I believe I had other things purchased too, but this was like the main one. And, we caught on to it and people were like complaining about it. But instead of doing that, what I did was I got on his Facebook and I found where he lives and I found where his nieces live and so to speak. And, you start
Yeah,
making
this guy. Yeah,
you
you
start making some threats about, like, well, look, this is where you live because you're stupid enough to put it on the internet, and your family's stupid enough to put where they live, and look right here, this is where your nieces are at. Like,
oh man.
Do you want this trouble? Um, and instead of blocking me, I bullied this scammer into sending me the box set. And then the box set ended up coming and smelling like smoke. And like when we were doing our other podcast and our YouTube stuff, I dedicated a YouTube process to
I
trying
remember that.
to
Yeah.
figure out how to get the smoke smell out of this damn thing. But not long after that, I come across the 16 disc set without the box, without the book, all the movies, right? And I managed to talk them into going cheaper than what they were asking for on eBay at the time. And by all intents and purposes, I got these movies for a huge steal because they didn't have the extra stuff. But I wanted the movies. I wanted the box set. I wanted the Blu-rays. They were out of print, and it was pretty much the cheapest way to get them all on blue at that point because other versions
Yeah.
were also out of print.
Because I started looking
Um,
through, like, I made like a list for you of the cheapest
yeah,
prices I found for all of them, and combined, it was like more expensive than just getting this guy's set. So it
so I
made
buy
total
this
sense.
set. Yeah, so I buy this set, and I can't ever verify if it ever had the corrected disc or not. I assume not, but like so many other boutique labels and mainly Scream Factory, it was a Scream Factory thing. Everybody else kind of caught up, but Scream Factory in particular, there's always something wrong with the disc. Always. Like there is something wrong with most releases. And there's some kind of like ivory tower, high horse, snooty bullshit that people think of Scream Factory just because they license, um, I don't know, more well known products. Is that fair to say?
I think it's fair that they had a lot of heavy hitters when they started. They were like the first real horror
Yeah.
boutique,
They're
I guess.
the first and only game in town. I don't even
Well,
consider them
you know what?
boutique at this point.
That's unfair. They're not definitely not the first, but like the first to really hammer these '80s classics onto Blu-ray. Because like we're talking mid 2000s, you had Media Blasters and Shriek Show and all those guys, but VTI even has been
Yeah,
around
but
for a
those
while.
guys didn't have a different side like like Shout Factory that was putting out all the
Yeah,
mainstream stuff.
they didn't have
So
distribution in like FYE a lot of the time either.
yeah,
Even now,
yeah. So like if you can go to Best Buy and buy a Scream Factory, you can go to Walmart and buy a Scream Factory title. Like I don't hardly even consider you like some struggling boutique label or anything either. But everybody looked down on me. Even a couple of years ago, I was looked down on for buying the movies to have them for movies. The community thought that they were worthless, and I was stupid for buying movies to watch because they didn't have a box. So
yeah.
eventually, I tracked down a box. It was $80 to import from England. I have a box shipped over. I put all this time and effort into collecting this, and you watch them, and the transfers aren't great. They're 12-year-old transfers at this point. Um, there's just like this ideology about this box set that because it was the first of its kind or because everybody seems to have a hard on for Halloween, and if you look close I certainly have the 4Ks here, but that's it. The box sets, they're gone. I have gotten rid of them. I was lucky enough, I decided to sell that box set because of how irritated I was with how people treat it like it's like like it has the blood of Jesus Christ as a special feature or something.
I recall when that came out. So the big deal was getting all of these movies together in one spot because of the rights issues. So the year before that, like 2013, they put out that Blu-ray Friday the 13th tin set. I bought that and I was real excited about it. This thing comes out, I already had all the fucking movies because they had put them out individually on Blu-ray. So I didn't need it. So I didn't get it. I already had, well, the next year they put out the producer's cut. I think it was the next year of Halloween 6, but I already had one, two, three, four, and five, all individual single Blu-ray releases. And these transfers, like the corrected disc that they gave for Halloween 4 was the one with the fire on it, the same one that you could get for fucking $10 at Walmart like a year before that when it came out. So it wasn't, to me, it wasn't a big deal. Even as a huge Michael Myers fan from back in the day, I was like, I already have these. It's a fucking big cardboard thing. I just don't need it. But somehow, and it sat on shelves too. They put out the smaller version as well, that 10 disc set. And both of those, up until, what was it, like 2016? I remember seeing that for $50, that 10 disc set. And then the box set hung around for a while too. It didn't fly off the shelves immediately. This is all 10 years later now, post
Out of
boutiques getting
print.
big. Yeah.
Yeah, where it kind of became a thing. Um, so that is something that needs to kind of be addressed with this. Is is the set is not good. The artwork is not good. I sold that thing 3 days later. They announced the 4Ks, and now, oh, you know what I do? I just buy those with the money. Awesome for me because now I have like optimal viewing experience. I don't have this giant box set that's taking up room that people like still to this day try to get like $600 for it. It's honest to God in comparison, it's trash. That's something that should go to Goodwill and
Like,
should go to the
okay.
exchange because those movies are the discs are 12, 13 years old. Like the transfers are not good. They're trash. You get a better quality streaming them. Like
Yeah.
there's
Some,
nothing about that box or the booklet or the messed up discs
like
other than you
peak
got the
price of that
producer's
thing.
cut in there.
It was like $600 peak price in 2020 when everybody got their stimulus and were buying into the hobby.
That's exactly
And
what it is.
4Ks get announced. I've seen it go down to 250, 200. So I've even seen one sell for 150. But now it's been climbing up a little bit over the past couple months.
They're
But I think
they're back up to $300, man.
once they announce the rest of them, I think it plummets.
And it's coming, and that's why we talked about this because we're laying on, everybody kind of has that prediction. I think it was pretty clear that October was going to be that Scream Factory was putting out the rest of the movies out on 4K, and now that they have re-released what was supposed to be the limited Halloween 1 through 5, I think that solidifies that we are maybe even hours away from that announcement because Scream Factory is
Yeah,
set
they're
up at San Diego Comic-Con of all places, which never happened before. So there's some kind of October announcement that's going to be huge. And I'm a guy like I'll get rid of those posters. I don't want them. I don't want the vinyls. If you make me buy them, I'm going to sell them to somebody who wants them.
they
I'm not
just
collecting
reissued
them.
those too.
And
So
now they're reissued.
what's the big deal?
So,
Who gives a fuck?
so
These people, you bought it because it was limited edition, not because you were going to play a fucking vinyl record of the Halloween 3 soundtrack. Because most people who
exactly.
bought that, they're sitting there in the collectible box on a shelf waiting to scalp it. At least
That's
that's how I
exactly what
take
it
it.
is. I traded mine. I didn't even sell them at that point. Like, and that's what I like to do. The Child's Play set that I have to get. I have to have these dumb 5 posters. I'm going to give them away to somebody who will send me a movie for them.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it's time that people get off of this Halloween box set thing because it's not good. It's it's trash. That's what it is. It's trash. It's somebody, and I'm a person who didn't just buy it. I took the time to build it. It was a waste of my time, effort, and money. And the only thing that paid off about it was I built it and then I sold it for a profit, and then I bought the 4Ks 3 days later.
If you want to take a look at the future of the Friday the 13th box set right now, people were when that came out, they were buying 2 and 3 of them. And that thing you can still I've seen it on Best Buy, my local Best Buy shelf recently. It's still
For
hanging
like
around
80
there.
bucks. Yeah.
And
And we're
once
not
if it goes out of print, is it going to go up in price? No, not this
I
time.
don't even think no, because why? There's 4Ks now.
Yeah,
And Scream Factory
they're
doesn't
coming.
even have the damn rights to the 4K. So I don't know. It's
But
just
people
a
make a
matter
big
of
deal about that, where it's like, oh, this is a Scream Factory version. Scream Factory half the time doesn't even do their own transfer. They get sent the fucking transfer. So the 4Ks coming out are going to look better in every single way. There's going to be nothing, even if they put out the Steelbook Blu-rays of Friday the 13th, it's the same transfer for those new transfers they were hyping up on the box set. They're putting them in the Steelbooks. There's nothing exclusive about it. So
yeah.
don't create a mythical thing about a release of movies. They are fucking movies, and you want them the best quality. You don't need
It's
to keep
important.
like your VHS, your fucking DVD, your all of this stuff. It's Well, I guess VHS is going up, but you know,
It shouldn't. It shouldn't though. Like that's the thing. It shouldn't.
DVD won't.
We're
DVD's
no,
done.
not until the grade scammers get into that too. And like, oh, here's a sealed copy of the Majestic. Here, I will take $9,000 for it.
Well,
Like,
that's just money laundering. So
but that covers everything that I wanted to talk about. We got to discuss two movies that I had not seen. So two blind buys for me. You had obviously seen Uncle Sam, so not quite a blind buy, but a good release to talk about nonetheless. Not everything that we do here is going to be blind buys, but we're going to try to include a blind buy in every episode. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to
I've got
continue
some
to
movies I want you to watch. You've got some you want me to watch, like Action USA. I know is a big one you want me to see, and
Action
we
USA
definitely.
was fantastic. That movie, once we have both seen it, we're going to talk at length about it because it went from being some obscure movie I've never seen or heard of to being in my top five of all time.
And
So
speaking of that type of thing, this is now in my top five of all time here. I bought the DVD real cheap, and I immediately upgraded it after watching it, and I never do that. You could ask this guy. Never. I
I
rarely upgrade like that.
I do nothing but upgrade. So to see that happen has actually been pretty. That's why I have half a shelf and he has two shelves because I have gotten rid of so many things specifically for upgrading purposes. But um, I think that's an episode, right? We could wrap
Yeah,
that.
that's a good first shot. We'll see
I'm gonna
y'all next
definitely
week, I guess, right?
definitely get into skin deep. Maybe I'm making an effort to possess that for this podcast as soon as
I can
possible.
always
So
send you the DVD I have. Even in a red case. I customize the case, so
okay,
I'll ship it to you
but
just to watch it and see. I mean, you could come on here and be like, "This movie's fucking horrible." I
I
doubt it.
want something like that to happen because I feel like if we sit here for an hour and just both fucking give blowjobs to things, it might become boring. So I hope we have that. And if you disagree with us, go ahead and let us know. All right, we're gonna start, doing a little more in depth things with this show. Hopefully, we'll be live streaming it eventually. So if you want to come on and
Yeah,
argue
we.
with us, by all means, I love to argue. Confrontation is my favorite thing.
I'd say this was a bit of a test to see, try out the new software and everything we're trying. So I have an option here to stream. We just couldn't do it yet because YouTube requires 24 hours once you ask for those permissions. So that doesn't make any sense to me, but I don't
So
know.
next week, live stream.
Possibly. We'll have to figure out a time. We still got to create social media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're getting too into the weeds. But thank you for going in blind with us.